Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this.
I am Councillor Claire Douglas, and I am the leader of the council and chair of this committee. So getting straight on with the agenda, first item is apologies for absence, and we have no apologies. Everybody is present. Item number 2 is declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations at all? No declarations of interest. Next item is the minutes of the meeting for the committee that was held on the 2nd of September. Can I see those in approval of those minutes? Yeah, everybody okay with those? Thank you. So they're approved. Item number 4 is public participation, and we have no speakers today. So we will move on to item number 5, which is the workforce demographics as at the 30th of September 2024. So that's Q2, and Helen Whiting is going to introduce that for us. Helen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a fairly standard format report that we present to you on a quarterly basis, and this obviously, as mentioned there, goes back to the end of September. So you can see from the paragraph 4, we've got a fairly trend analysis there. We've got the headcount, FTE, sickness, new starters, leavers, resignations and retirements, which also there's more detail in the general annex of the workforce profile data there. There isn't a significant increase in any one of those areas. Obviously, there is some increase in there in terms of the headcount and the FTE. These can just literally be part-time posts going, flexible retirements, etc. So they're not significant numbers or concerned about those. Very small movement in terms of our average days sickness. Slight decrease in terms of new starters and leavers, and they are on a rolling 12-month figure. And resignations are pretty similar, as are retirements as well. Got some detail at paragraph 6 about work with York assignments. They've continued to be used, and that is part of our business model. We will continue to use those because it is largely the best way to use for some posts. Spend has significantly reduced, and that's largely associated with some times where we're actually appointing some of our agency workers or advertising posts which were previously occupied by agency placements. We've been able to look at them, hence why some of the FTE and headcount have increased in some areas. Paragraph 7 talks about the fact there's more starters than leavers, but sometimes there is a flux between those. It just depends whether we advertise immediately. And this again is one of the areas where temporary contracts, we're not immediately filling them with an agency. So we may have a starter, but the leaver had left in previous months. So it just depends where the line is drawn. We are looking at downsizing the organisation, and we do expect there to be some kind of reduction in some of the areas, but at the minute there isn't a great deal, as you've seen there. The age bands of our workforce remain largely the same. We are now at the average age of 47, which was a slight reduction from previous years, but the age bands of 40 to 64 makes up the largest percentage of 44% of the council's workforce, which is just only slightly higher than Yorkshire and Humber and the general census. We continue, just going back on absence, we continue to monitor absence, and it is where in small areas and small teams that it may actually distort the figure slightly, where there's just somebody being on long-term absence. We continue to make sure that the health of all of our employees are monitored closely, and the reduction of long-term absence is coming down. In terms of workforce profiling, the the gender and the age remain largely comparable as previous years. We've actually just done quite a large exercise, so we may see a difference when we run the reports for Q4 with our workforce. We've done quite a bit of engagement in terms of the reasons for giving personal protected characteristics and the promotion of what we actually do with that data. So that's something that we may see a difference in, and we continue to work with recruitment opportunities to make sure that they're expanded out to the rest of our community as well. I've mentioned there about the gender pay gap, which is obviously a statutory and mandatory report that we do. The ethnicity pay gap we did for the first time last year. We're going to duplicate that, but we're also going to look at disability. But that does have the caveat on the same way as it's always used by our data, so it might not necessarily look as the gender pay gap, because we don't have to hold all of that information on all our individuals. And I'm happy to take any questions, Chair. I appreciate there's the next one, and colleagues may want to pick up any other points there.
Thank you, Helen. Does anybody have any questions, comments for Helen at all? Councillor Widdowson, please go ahead.
I had some observations and some questions. Okay, so just for my understanding, the full-time number, or the full-time equivalent numbers seem to be climbing. Is that because they're including the agency workers that are coming back in house? Is there a way of showing that? Because looking at it, you're kind of going, is the number climbing, or is the number where it was with the agency workers? Just be a nice comparison to understand if that is the case.
But it may take time, because
no, that's fine. But it's just then you've got a clear picture rather than it looks like it's climbing, but it may actually be static.
There is obviously other reasons why we have increased FTE, or not necessarily FTE, certainly headcount. This is where people go flexible retirement. And when you see in the next report, we've had, I think it was 7 flexible retirements. So they've come through. So they might mean that somebody's gone flexible retirement, but you then get extra time from their retirements. So
it would just be interesting to see a clear picture rather than trying to make it up.
If that can be done, we'll sort that out.
The other question I had, or your understanding, the largest cohort is the 50 to 64-year-olds, which is where you've also got the largest retirement, which is no surprise, or the largest leaving and all the rest of it. What plans have we got in place to try and sort that out when you look at the disparity between people over 50 and people under 25? It looks like it's an issue.
I don't necessarily think it's an issue in all of the areas, but each department has their own succession planning, and it's done on a dynamic basis. So where there is opportunities that come up, we can take that from there. But I would have to do a full dissection of all of the succession plans that are going on, rather than saying, is that a problem? No, I'm not concerned. There's no one area saying that it's a real issue right across the board at this point in time.
Okay.
So
over coming up for half of the workforce are over 50 and therefore approaching retirement.
But that we've also got people underneath them that can probably come up as well. That's what I say, that's what succession planning is all about.
I fully understand that, but I just think it's an awfully large number to be in there. It'd just be interesting to see any plans to address that.
We will, but we wouldn't necessarily make those public.
Right. So. Okay. Then a couple of questions that I had. The first one you've answered because of it might be agency workers. The work with York numbers that you've got, are they standalone for each quarter, or are they additional?
It depends which spreadsheet.
In the annex.
The annex, so we've got 2 tables, haven't we? For one is over. Pardon? Yeah. So the work with York total assignments, that is the total assignments for the whole of the year for that one, for 1.13, and then 1.14, that is still the whole assignments. And the page 9, the 1.15, sorry, no, I've got the other way, that is whole assignments for the whole of the year as at Q2. So
is that you add
cumulative, so you keep going. Yeah.
So is Q1 added to Q2, or
yes.
Right, so that number's going up.
Yeah,
Okay. And I thought the idea was that we were aiming to use less work with York.
we are using less work with York, but there is certain times when we actually still need work with York, which is why I said it's part of the business case. So we still have some vacancies that are covered. We have to absolutely cover them. I'll give an example. Within customer services, we've just taken on 10 to actually help with a specific project. So we would do that, but then you will see them, they will be reduced the following quarter as well.
Right, again, the final question, so I promise this is the
Mm.
final question. Sickness is not moving really
No.
inside of the organisation. And I just did a quick Google search and I could only find it for civil servants. I couldn't find it for
There is a
whatever.
benchmark for local authorities, yeah.
Okay, the public sector last year it was 9 days, or the 23-24 was 10.9, which is significantly higher. And the one that we seem to be going against is York and Humber. Should we be doing it against York and Humber and West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire so that we actually get
Everybody
some type
calculates.
of comparison? Because it just seems we're saying it's not really changing and it's not really high. Whereas a quick scout, you know, saying that it's 9 days for the civil service, but it's over 10 for ours. And then if you look at the public sector, they're down at 5.5 days. So it's just, what comparator do we want to do it on and how do we improve it?
Comparison is really, really hard because everybody deals with it it calculates absence very differently, even between different councils. So there's no one set formula for absence at all. Some people include those that if they've handed the resignation and they're on absence, it isn't included in the figures anymore. People don't include it for in probation. That's another one. You've got other people who exclude it for apprentices. We do it for the whole of our organisation. I've always said that we're looking at the health of the organisation. Civil service also have it very differently. I know that from dealing with some comparators. So to do comparisons like for like is really, really difficult. And the benchmark, and even when we submit our figures to the LGA for the local government organisation, for instance, we put that this and this, but they're still just take an overall average. So it's really difficult. So we can't compare apples with apples. We don't even compare likely with North Yorkshire either. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Helen, on those. Councillor Lomas, you're next.
Thank you. Just to clarify a couple of things, because I think I got a bit confused there. In the average sickness days, the benchmark public sector, brackets Y and H, is that Yorkshire and Humber, or is it York and Humber? Yorkshire and Humber, which includes West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire, presumably.
Oh,
Right.
right, I didn't. I thought it was York.
Okay. And the other one about work with York that Councillor Widdowson asked about. So in table 1.15, current assignments, quarter one is 163, quarter two is 162. Does that mean we currently have 162 or do we currently have 325?
We currently have 162.
Right, that isn't what I understood.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to clarify it.
Yeah.
Thanks. I hope that's helpful, Councillor Widdowson. So.
Thank you, Councillor Ed.
Yeah, I got totally confused by that. So how does that tally with the 22-23? So if that's, because I was looking at the same, on the top of page 22, you're looking at 478, if that was cumulative, which you sort of suggested, I thought it can't be. So what's the six? So how do we compare these back to those? You know, I mean, we can't really compare, if that's live data, that's not something we can compare back to 22, 23, 23, 24 until the end of the year, till we know.
Quarter 2022-23, that was the total number of assignments, 23-24, and then 24-25, that is at quarter one, and then we've got quarter two figure, that's the same.
So table 113 makes sense that it's going up. So there was 210, another 58 people had come in. That doesn't work with table 115 because we were at 163 and we've gone down to 162. So that means it can't go down, it would have to, if you'd had none.
That's,
But aren't you supposed to be having a total?
we have, but that was just at quarter 1, just for your information. We're at quarter
if-
2.
Yeah, but if we'd had 163 in quarter 1,
Yeah.
if we'd had none at all in quarter 2, the figure would still be 163.
Can I just draw attention that the title of the 115 is current assignment?
Yeah.
So that's why.
So 113 is the cumulative figure going forward. So it's 268, of which 162 current and 100, 108, 106 have ended.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my actual question was on page 17, the average sickness days. I've had long conversations with yourself and my predecessors about sickness days and scrutiny committees. It's something we've always been looking at. Well, what's interesting is the movement within directorates. So there's been a significant drop over a period of time in adult social care and integration level 5. I wonder if we know why that is, if that's something to do with, I'm just purely guessing whether that's ex-agency staff who've come in who are less likely to go off sick.
We don't report sickness absence for agency staff. It's only for our employees. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just that workforce has increased. You've got a cohort of
Yes.
probably 150 to 200 people who were agency staff who are now probably permanent. Whether that is what's had that impact of, which is 25% drop off in sickness days in one department is huge.
There's also been quite a lot of purely people within adult social care that are no longer with us.
And the flip side of that was the city development, which again, I wonder if that's to do with changing directorate titles, has gone up exponentially from.
It has, because there's now an increased number of individuals in that area, but also saying that why you might just get one individual that's really skewed that information. I think that's certainly the case. A deal of numbers in city development, there's only 28 employees in there.
So is that
Right.
it's probably not worth reporting that as a line then. I would suggest that we probably take that out then, if that's in terms of individuals as well. If that's only 28 people, that's sort of leaning towards who those individuals are. So the reporting this, I wouldn't expect us to report on less than teams of 200-300.
Well, we could just give you the high level score of the average sickness days for the whole of the council. So
I think by direction
Yeah.
is handy, but
Yeah.
if that is just
But where you-
we should have a director of 28 people.
well, city development director at the FTEs is only 27, so there's only limited numbers of people in there.
Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. And I just would like
This one keeps.
yeah.
Who's the room like? Oh, wow, the room like.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yeah,
Through the room mic, yeah, okay, thank you. So just on the work with your assignments, Helen, can you just give us a bit of an understanding of the profile of, you know, we've noted that they've really gone down significantly in some directorates, in others there still are a number. And I still have concern that there's in some places too many long-term work with York assignments. And so can you just give us a sense of kind of the shifts in the directorates that are particularly heavy users? So we've got adult social care and
Adults and
integration,
children.
housing and communities, and transport and environment. And that might be quite helpful to understand that a bit more if we can, please.
So, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Adults and adult social care and integration and children education directorate. We've done an awful lot of work. We no longer have any social workers in the children's services. What remains there is in our residential services, and that's the same for adult social care as well. So these are our services where we have to have cover, and we often have it at short notice associated with sickness absence, etc., and vacancies, or simply cover for holidays, which is why those numbers, and that's the model that we use for them, rather than having a pool of staff that we have internally. We use Work with York. Housing and communities, again, we've got some short 24 hours, short notice 24-hour services to look at. We've got our hostel, we've got interpreters we also use within housing for our communities, and exam invigilators as well. And again, those are just short term, so that's why we would use them on a short term basis. And that's again the most effective, cost effective model to go through there. Transport and Environmental Directorate, again, they're services that we have to cover. So from our refuse collection, we may well need to get some short-term cover within there. It also includes trading standards. So when we're doing trading standards, we have inspectors that do ad hoc piecemeal work as well, which each of those would be potentially a separate transaction. So we may do them in a 3-month block, and then they may not come back, and then they come back for another 2-month block, depending on when surveys are required to be done. So that we have got kind of a workforce like that. And that also then reflects with some of those being on our longer term, because we have these individuals that work for us on a long-term basis. Leeds do exactly the same for all of the environment and the trading standards inspections. And we've been quite fortunate that we've got the same candidates that come through and have got experience, and that's how a lot of councils work now, based on that, rather than employing full-time.
Great, thank you very much for that. It's really helpful to understand that where we are being successful at driving down agency work, there's still the need for flexibility in some parts of the organisation to meet operational demands that are important. Marvellous, thank you. Right, okay. So the recommendations for this report are on page 12 at paragraph 23. So is to note the report and to accept them. So can I see those in favour of those recommendations, please? So that's unanimously passed. Thank you, everybody. Next item number 6 is the redundancy pension or exit discretion report. So Helen, please, can you introduce that to us as well? Thank you.
Okay, indeed. So there were some slight tweaks to the report from last time, which is the table headings more than anything else, because hopefully that is clear for members. We have presented to you 7. We've had 7 flexible retirements. I know I'm always asked about whether these are flexible retirements, and then there's additional work, and there's a variety through all of those, depending on the circumstances for the individual service. There is always a reduction when you're talking about a flexible retirement of either grade or number of hours. All of these are a reduction of hours. Most have gone down from full-time to approximately 3 days or 4 days a week. So that's that reduction across there. And so there's a variety of different backfill. Table 2 is the cases that you've already seen, and obviously we've got the 4 compulsory redundancies there that we've already gone through in private session as well. There's no other details there.
Thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions for Helen? Councillor Eyre, please go ahead.
It was just to check, I thought we had redundancies this period, and yet there aren't any.
Thought we had redundancies.
Between in this period, October to December.
We haven't. No, there's been no redundancies. I'll talk to you outside if you're thinking of anything specific, but no, there's been none.
Anybody else? No. Okay. Right. Well, thank you for bringing those to our attention and for noting everybody. So the recommendation on that item is on page 30 to note the return, and to can I see those who are in support of that? Thank you. That's passed unanimously too. Thank you very much. Item number 7 is the work plan. And on the work plan, so we've just completed 13th of January meeting, and then we've got another meeting on the 24th of February, which will have a similar format to this one, unless there's any additional business that comes up. So can I see those in favour of that work plan as it stands at this point? Thank you very much.
Just to note, Chair, because the second point, the quarterly retention payments went up to December, there was no, so there's only one agenda item for 24th of February at this point.
Oh, okay, thank you, okay. Right, going back to the agenda then. The final item, item number 8, is urgent business, and we have none have been notified for no urgent business. So that is the end of the meeting. Meeting closes. Thank you everybody for joining us, and see you next time.